Greetings, Inquisitors. Welcome to the Holocron. This is the week 188 update for the Darth Loquitur account. I update this account's progress every week, go through all the character ships, mods, Datacrons, all the stuff we're doing for the account so that y'all can follow along. Please remember, as we get started, hit that like button. It does help me, helps the channel, and I would appreciate if you could do that to help me out. Okay, week 188. We're working on the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis stuff. Pretty much have to get these characters to Gear 12, as I understand it, to do the event, but we're going to go ahead and take some of these characters up to Relics. Cere, definitely a character that I want to take to Relics. We'll have Malicos someday, so she'll lead the Malicos. She'll lead the team that Malicos goes into eventually. We put her at Relic 3 and just leave her there for now. We do have enough materials to get one more Cairo locked down onto Merrin. She'll be the next target to take up to Relic levels. We got Tarful down here that we haven't even started yet, so we're going to go ahead and get him up to level 85, work through some of his skills, and then we'll use him as the character today that we're going to put mods on. I don't think we're going to be using him anywhere in Grand Arena, but might as well get him going for now in case we want to put him somewhere. Speaking of Grand Arena, I've got a couple teams that I need to modify. Here we're going into the Inquisitor team, and we're putting the 7th Sister Datacron on there. We got that sometime after we locked into Grand Arena, so we can do that now and get that appropriate Datacron there. And then on the back wall, I replace an Ewok team with a Beskar Mando, Queel, and IG-11 team. Might be a little bit tougher for people to beat than those Ewoks. Going into mods for the week, we got a bunch of gray mods that have 4 or 5 speed on them. We still had a few 4-speed mods carried over from last week, but we're going through here. We got 8 speed, but failed to roll another roll on that. 8 speed's not very high potential, but with green, I think it's worth trying to go to blue just to see if it stays interesting. We've had a few of them that hit 5 or 6 speed at that point and become interesting again. Here I'm just selling off mods. We sell off like 46 mods here. And I got skunked again on all of the green, blue, purple, gold mods. There was nothing to do in the account. So with that, it's a pretty short week and we're all done with the upgrades already. So again, we worked on Merrin a little bit. We got Cere to Relic 3 and saving up stuff for the Gungan event coming up here, so we charged up some energy in the background, and we'll do some more refreshes today before we hit the event. And we'll try to, optimize that as much as we can without going crazy for it. So I know some people really stock up and wind up the energy to the maximum possible, and I'm willing to do it for a couple days, but that's it. So I've stocked up the energy for now. We'll hit that event and we'll see what happens with the Gungans. Hopefully the drop rates are generous. We've had some events in the past where the drop rates were okay, and we've had some events where the drop rates were really stingy. And I hope the Gungan drop rate is generous so that I can get in and get ready for this event coming up in August. All right, let's go through the statistics for the week. Week 188, we're at 9.54 million galactic power, 169 relics, 146 zetas, 24 omicrons. We can get top 50 in Squad Arena. We're playing around with that Queen Amidala team and some other stuff in Squad Arena, so we've lost rank there, but it's not really relevant. Profundity and Chimera can get us top 5, first place if we play every day. Grand Arena, we're still in Kyber 2, and then I didn't update the bottom. That's actually going to be Merrin will be the project for week 189. I think I can get her ready for next week. Still got some Kairos to put on her, and of course we need the Cairo for the Gear 13, but I should be able to do that in a week. For energy farms, we're using Beck, Paz, Boss Naz, the Bombardier, and Fleet, we're still working on that IG-12. Cantina working on signal data, slicing materials and mods 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and we're doing the 4th refresh, that 100 cost refresh on mods. I've settled in on that and been able to afford it pretty well with the account, so we'll keep doing that. The planning is same as it's been for a while. Jedi Knight Cal Kestis journey, the raid, Gungans, And then on Tier 2, the only thing that I'm really working on in the background that I want to get up and running is the Darth Revan. So Zalbar mission, stuff like that, to try to get that, finally get the Malik at some point. And then moving on to the little relic priority list that I've been doing. So for people who don't follow this account every week, if you're new to the channel, basically what I do is I go through and I look at a bunch of different characters that I have that are either at relic level or who I feel could help a specific team for me, either in Grand Arena or Territory Wars or something like that. So I try to keep a list of like the highest priority targets. So this list has been up for a few weeks now. Cal Kestis is done, Queen Amidala is done, Padme got done, Cere is now done. We still have Merrin to do, and I do want to do Barriss for 5s. We'll try to get Merrin for next week, but then the week after that we'll probably take a little detour and grab Barriss. I do want to have a 5s team set up for Queen Amidala, so we'll have to get that ready for the start of 5v5. And then, of course, the Gungans, relicking them to be ready for the raid stuff is the next priority. I want to talk today a little bit about the idea of build density. So somebody had asked me the question in one of my live streams, do you think you'll hit Kyber 1 soon? And at the time, you know, a bunch of thoughts ran through my head, and I thought, no, I don't really think I'm going to hit Kyber 1, but you know, how do I describe it or explain that in a way that would make sense to people? So I thought it through, and I'm going to talk about it in terms of build density and what you might call skill density. So advancing in Grand Arena the way it's built right now is not a static equation. A lot of people think, if here's where I am today, if I just build these 2 teams, I'll be able to do better. Like let's say you're at high Erodium and you're trying to get into Kyber, and you're like, if I just had a few more teams, I'd be ready for Kyber, and then we move up and I'd have enough teams to put on defense. So I just got to get those 2 more teams. The thing you have to keep in mind, all of the other people at your relative skill rating are building their accounts also. So while you work on your teams, they're working on their teams, and people sometimes get surprised to find out that they're not really moving up in GAC as fast as they thought they could, even though they're building high quality teams and learning how to play them and playing them very well. So you have to think about the difference, the speed difference between how good you're building your own account and skill, and then you have to compare that to everybody else in the game at your same level. If you're down in Bronzium, I mean, the people in Bronzium aren't developing their skill, and they might get their accounts bigger, but they really aren't getting better at playing. And as most people realize, when you're in Bronzium and you fight up a 5 million opponent, a lot of times you'll beat that 5 million opponent pretty easily because they're just collecting Star Wars characters, and they're not serious about playing the game. And even if they go to 6.5 million, it's not going to matter. Once you start getting into Erodium and higher, those people are all playing, and they're playing pretty much at the same rate that you are. With the way that the economy works in the account right now, with all of the gear that you can get from raid currency, being able to buy relic materials for raid currency, basically anybody with a little bit of common sense can build their account pretty much with optimal efficiency. And even if they're off on the efficiency, let's say somebody's really not that great at it, then you relic a character every 9 days instead of every 6.5 days. The relic cycle maximum for the characters with New Cairo for a free-to-play account is around 7.5 days. So some people may not do that well, but for people who are at that level, just remember, if you build 10 relics, it's 75 days, and in those 75 days, maybe somebody takes 10 days to build a relic, but they've built 7 relics. You've built 10, but they've still built 7. So their progress is almost as fast as yours. So that's what we have to think about. It's not just how much stuff we build for our account. We have to build stuff for our account at a rate that exceeds what our opponents are doing. Or we have to develop our own skill with a team and figure out a team or a different way to play or some counters where you're really taking like a non-GL counter and countering that GL on defense all the time. Or, for example, once Bane is out, if you've got Bane, you have an advantage over all the people in the similar bracket who have the same GP as you or the same skill rating as you in Grand Arena, and they're working on their stuff and you're working on yours. But a character like Bane can put you ahead if you have it and they don't. Okay, so there are ways to get ahead, but it's incremental. So mods also, people with good mods can do better in general. So a lot of times when I'm playing at 9.5 million against opponents that are 11.5 million, and that's currently the trend right now at Kyber 2, I'm playing up against people with 2 million more galactic power than me. And when you're already at 9.5, the difference between 9.5 and 11, because in earlier galactic powers, like if you're fighting a 4 against 6, your 4 might be good journey characters, and their 6 might be a whole lot of Gear 12 stuff that they've just built over time. But when you're at 9.5 million, you don't have that big bulk of Gear 12 stuff in the middle. That 2 million is almost always just more ships and characters at relic level than you have in your own account. But I'm punching up against that, and I get a 50% win rate, so I'm holding myself kind of in the middle of Kyber 2. So how do we get to Kyber 1? So that means in order to get to Kyber 1, I really have to be efficient enough that I'm building my account in a better way and faster than my opponents. Okay? So I still think that's true, but I think that my advantage is much more incremental than it used to be. Again, because the game is pretty self-explanatory. You buy stuff out of the raid shop, you relic your characters more quickly, and you're just always behind on Cairo, bronzium wiring, or signal data. One of those three things is holding you down. But yeah, so and for example, so the efficiency that I've gained, if I go back and look at my account within that same window that people have reliced fewer relics than me, the ones that I've reliced have been like the Imperial Remnant that I did to get a Beskar Beskar Gideon team up and running, and I can't take them past Relic 1 because even though I can get them to Gear 13 faster than other players, I can't farm the signal data in Bronzium Wire to take them to higher relics. So that's kind of it. That's where I'm stuck, trying to increment my progress above my opponents and trying to squeak out those little advantages where I can. So if I was to do that for another 4 to 6 months, then I think, gradually, bit by bit, I would start passing up more of the people in Kyber 2 and be able to touch Kyber 1. And right now, without any data to back it up, there's no science or an equation to say it. But I feel like it's going to be 4 to 6 months before I can get to the point where I'm maybe pushing into Kyber 1. And a lot of people have the experience that they bounce out of Kyber 2, and as soon as they hit Kyber 1, they get swatted back down instantly. So we'll see if that's true for us. I imagine it will be. The other thing that Kyber 1 people do pretty much across the board is Datacrons, because when you have all the characters and you have all the newer stuff built, you could have a Trench Datacron. There was a Saw Gerrera Datacron that was good for a lot of endgame players, and people who didn't have Saw just said, oh, well, this Datacron's good enough that I'm going to go ahead and build a Saw team. And just with that one Datacron, that team, for a series of about 8 weeks, became something that you had to have almost a Galactic Legend level team to beat for the cost of one Datacron. So right now my crystals are spent across refreshes, trying to get mods, Cantina energy, all that stuff. In an endgame account, there's not as much focus on those things, so they can spend more refreshes on Datacrons. And like an opponent that I fought yesterday in Grand Arena, he had a Datacron on every single one of his teams on defense, and he would have no problem. He had enough Datacrons that he has them for every team on offense as well. And that's a huge disadvantage when you're trying to punch up. If you're punching up against people that have the premier characters with their Datacrons at level 9, those teams are very often the difference between winning and losing. remember that eventually in the end game economy, you're not going back and trying to work on old content. You don't need kairos for the stuff that came before, for example. So your credits and shipbuilding materials can all be spent on mods. You don't really need to save that stuff for anything. Maybe you say, oh, I want to keep 50 million credits in the bank and 25 million shipbuilding credits in the bank, and that's fine. You can do that, but still the income that you earn every week can be used on mods. Crystals can be spent on Datacrons or character shards because, again, you want to do your refreshes on signal data, but other than that, you don't have to farm hard farms, and you're not, again, you could stock up Cairo ahead of time for the new characters. So it's very different when you've got everything already and you've reached that end game state. There's a lot more to spend on Datacrons. So the question I think we all have to ask ourselves, especially in the mid game, is if you want to go all the way to the top and you want to go into Kyber 1, do you want to compete with that? Do you really want to have to spend that much on Datacrons and have to keep up with everybody else at the top who's doing all the things? I think for me, one of the things that I decided quite some time ago, just to curb my competitive appetite in GAC and not go crazy and want to spend money all the time, is just to build an account, have fun playing it, and set the goal for myself at just playing a little bit better, doing a little bit better, beating a little bit harder opponents than I did before. I cleared that guy with full Datacrons on everything, and I lost the matchup by like 12 banners, but it feels pretty good clearing off somebody who's got that much power in their account and still being able to beat their stuff. So if I set the bar as, beating myself, then the only person who can disappoint me is me. And if I play well or play badly, and I've had some GACs where I've, had a miss or a stumble early. I think like 2 seasons ago, I had one like that where I lost the first matchup horribly. I went into a second matchup and something went wrong there and I lost that horribly. And I was just kind of tilted for the whole rest of the Grand Arena. So it still does occasionally happen that I end up not having much fun, but that's mostly when I misplay something or play badly and disappoint myself. So again, for those who are in Kyber 2, Kyber 3, and you're thinking about pushing for Kyber 1, these are some things to think about. You have to incrementally build your account faster than your opponents. Your gameplay has to get better. You may have to invest more in Datacrons. And at the end of the day, you might just want to sit back and have fun and enjoy the ride. And as good as you get is as good as you need. And for me, that takes the form of spending. So if I wasn't happy to sit back and do this, then I would have to spend more money on the account, and for right now we're not willing to do that. So that's going to wrap it up for week 188 in the Darth Loquitur account updates. Hope that helps some people out. Just putting my thoughts down here for other people to consider. If you think a certain way about that, leave comments in the chat down below. I always like having discussions about these things, whether people agree or disagree. It's fun to talk about and see different perspectives. So leave a comment down there. Let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. We'll close it out with the usual end of video stuff. So hit the like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this stuff in the future. Use the notification bell so you know when I'm doing my live streams. And of course, join us over on the Discord. The link is up above and down below. We've got a nice Discord community for mid-game players, newer players. A bunch of people willing to answer questions and help you out. So if you need some advice or want to figure out how to do something, give us a shout. There's an Ask Loquitur channel. You can ask me questions directly and I'll get back to you when I can. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next Holocron.